I call the meeting of the Board of Selectmen for June 16th, 2021 to order. The first order of business is reorganization of the Board of Selectmen. I want to welcome Julie Perouse on board, following her win on Monday, and accept nominations for chair.
Mr. Chair, I make a nomination for Selectman Carey and yourself to be the chair.
I'll second that motion.
Motion made and seconded. Are there any other motions for chair? Hearing none. All is in favor? Aye. Opposed? 5-0. Thank you. I appreciate the honor. Now accept nominations for vice chair.
I'll make a nomination for Mr. Bosno for vice chair.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any other nominations? Hearing none. All is in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Congratulations. And lastly, nominations for clerk.
I'll make a nomination of Mr. Devont for clerk. Or I didn't know.
Is there a second?
If I'll leave it, I will gladly take the position unless Julie has a preference. If you want to be clerk, it's not very time consuming.
So.
No.
Okay.
If you can figure it out, let us know.
Yeah,
'cause-
okay.
I'll make a nomination, nominate Julie.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any other further nominations? Hearing none. All is in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's rookie honors. Next order of business is public comment. Is there any public comment? Seeing none. We have minutes from June 2nd, 2021. What's the pleasure of the board?
Chair, I make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All is in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Thank you. Next up, Old Home Day update from Mary V. Keel and Laura Taylor. Welcome.
Hi.
Thank you for coming.
We just wanted to talk a little bit about the upcoming Old Home Day, 2021. It's pretty much all been planned, and I've been in it for 20 years, going on my 20 year, and Laura is too. 16. We're close. all
Round
right?
up.
And I've chosen this year, I just need to leave. It's been a long, I've loved it. I've loved every minute of it. I've watched it come from a one-day event to what it is now. And it's really fulfilling for me. But I work on it from October right through September. It's a long, long process. And we have a current committee of about 11 people. That's not counting, we brought in about 4 new people this year. Matt and Sean being 2 of them. They're not really members, but I keep them in the loop all the time about what's going on. Brian as well, and sometimes John McNally from the Board of Health. I work really closely with John. I don't know if you guys remember in 2019, everything changed for us. Donna and Bill had left the committee, and for some reason, all of a sudden we needed permits that we never had needed before, and it was just a crazy time frame. But we got all that done. That being said, we have about $41,000 in the bank for us. Currently, it's about $22,000 to $25,000 to put it on. It's a wonderful event. We've had up to about 10,000 people at different points throughout the years attending. And people come from all over. We are not going to have enough money to run it in 2022. I know when this all started in 2000, the board generously gave us $25,000 to start with. And we've really not ever made a profit on anything. But we've built it up to what it is now. So every year we bring in revenue from the inflatables that we bring in, the food vendors. We charge the food vendors $350. We also charge park vendors. Laura's in charge of park vendors,
and they're $50 and $30, and I started doing the park vendors, took it over, I think 4 years ago, and we went from having like 70 or 80 in the park to the last year we had 120. So,
It's grown substantially. And that's where the bulk of our revenue comes from. This year, we did not ask for any sponsors because of what was going on with COVID. I mean, we didn't even get permission to run it until recently. So we're scrambling right now to get everything done. Luckily, all of the entertainment and actually the food vendors were already committed back, for 2020. So they just said, we're on for 2021, so don't worry about it. So we're in good standing that way. Money-wise, we're not going to have any revenue coming in. The one big thing we do run is the Red, White, and Brew. And the two people that run that are not here, unfortunately. But we make about between 2,000 and
3,000 for each year, and Apple Country sponsors the entire event. The beer and wine and liquor vendors that come in don't charge us. They come in and they sort of pass out their alcohol as just for promotional purposes and to get advertising. So that event is truly 100% profit for us. And I think this year we're waiting, because we were told initially that we couldn't have it inside Town Hall. And if we can't really have it inside Town Hall, it doesn't make sense to have it. And so we're here tonight to ask permission for us to have it inside of Town Hall if the guidelines have been lifted, restrictions have been lifted, and we're, trying to just continue, as all of us are, to just have the event continue as unchanged as possible. And so that's our biggest thing, is
Yeah, that's-
requesting to have
yeah.
the Red, White, and Brew inside.
because without that, we're really not going to make any money this year.
Yeah, I think the last time we spoke informally, and this is obviously, things have been changing quickly.
Yeah.
We didn't know what was going to happen in a week, forget about. But yeah, I mean, it seems like after our conversation with the Board of Health 2 weeks ago that we're back to normal, and the state emergency was lifted yesterday, so I don't see any reason why we couldn't continue in the past. I mean, does that go to the Town Hall Use Committee first? Or can we just,
No, I think this is Mr. Chairman, an annual event, so I don't think the Town Hall Use Committee would really need to be involved.
Great.
It's more of the public safety, the public health issues that need to be resolved. So.
Okay.
Just as an FYI, the Town Hall Use Committee form that's already been established has already been signed by all the appropriate parties.
Okay.
So, I mean, everybody knows that it was coming, so.
So do you think this is something we could settle tonight, or should we check with the Board of Health and make sure they're on board? We should? Okay. So could we pass provisional approval tonight pending Board of Health approval, just to move them along, or would it have to wait until our next meeting?
I think you could, I mean, we did get the form for
Right.
them that we were going to put on the next meeting, but I guess the board wanted to do it tonight. You could give, like you said, maybe preliminary approval, and if the board is okay with it, we'll check with the Board of Health.
Yeah.
And bring the formal request at the next meeting. The event's not till September, so.
Right.
But I think you could give some direction, that would be good.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
I'm not opposed to approving this at all, but just, can I ask for clarification if the brew, what is it called again? The
Red,
the
White,
Red,
and
White, and
Brew.
Brew? If the proposal is to have that happen inside the town hall, why wouldn't that go through the town hall usage subcommittee?
I mean, it could,
And-
it's
and
just
I-
that it's an annual event, so generally if it's just a regular thing that they do every year.
Okay.
The Board of Selectmen have to give approval.
Right.
But if the Town Hall Use Commission wants to review that, absolutely, they certainly can.
No, I just don't want to, because I thought that they already have so I guess if they already have the forms and everything, I guess it doesn't matter. I was just curious. It was just more for me kind of trying to understand the role of the town hall usage subcommittee, that's all.
Yeah. Generally, if it's a new event or a new setup or a new request that we've never seen before,
Yeah.
we'd like to get the Town Hall input, community's input, but if this event's been the same one every year and the same event, we just, it has to come to the selectmen anyways, but
Yep.
the committee is certainly welcome to review it. But I think it wouldn't be mandatory if the selectmen were okay.
Sure.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the use of the Old Home Day Committee with a provisions based upon approval by the Board of Health, and if there are no objections by the Town Hall Use Committee.
Absolutely.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Motion made, second. Any discussion?
Just, so all the forms and everything, and because it does, there are like fees for janitorial services and all that, I'm just assuming all that's been squared away?
That's all been squared away.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
we'll play it above board. I just want to get them going if we can, so. Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, all is in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, 5-0. Did you get our $5,000? We gave you $5,000 from the Civic Fund at our last meeting, so make sure Michael cuts the check there.
Check your books then.
We're not the finance
All right,
person,
well-
sorry.
We haven't heard about it, but
All
thank
right.
you very much.
Sure.
We'll gladly
We
take it.
appreciate it.
What else can we do to help you guys?
I think it would be helpful for the board to maybe put out some kind of advertisement, because, again, Laura and I are both leaving. We are the last two remaining of the original members of the committee.
So for committee participation, not the event
Yes.
itself.
And that being said, my husband's the electrician that works at committee, and the electrician's going to have to be on site too, because
Okay.
he's not coming.
Okay.
All right? I'm sure you must have a town electrician or something,
Okay.
but they should be aware that they're going to have to be on site, because there's a lot of interaction with the food vendors. You know, sometimes they blow a fuse and that stuff, and
Okay.
wires all over the place.
All right. I'll reach out to you guys to figure out wording for, and who to
We can help
contact.
you with the wording, we'd
Yeah.
definitely help you with the wording, and it's, you know, we were talking at the meeting last night, we know there are lots of people in town that, I mean, we've all seen it with the different groups that we're all involved in, that people do step up, and I think if we could just put out something
Sure.
formal from the selectmen looking for people to help with this event, I think we'd get a lot of, you know, new people with some different ideas, some a new level of excitement, and, you know, and commitment brought to the group, and that's all we want. We want it to continue.
Absolutely.
And we're not going to go anywhere. It's not like,
Yeah.
we're done. You know,
Great.
we'll definitely help with transition and help, because, you know, this is a phenomenal event, and we
Absolutely.
want to continue to see it go.
I mean, I've already started planning 2022, and then it dawned on me that we're not going to be here. So, you know, no point in doing that.
Right.
You know,
All right. Well,
it's
thank
okay.
you for everything, and we're looking forward to a great event. And if there's anything else we can do to help you, please let us know. Any other questions or comments from the board?
I just have, is there any, out of the group of new participants, are there some that you think are gonna like elevate up to the leadership positions that you guys have held?
I don't think so.
No, okay.
I think with the time commitment, no. I think it's a lot, and but you never know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's, you know, most of us have. I know I've fallen into half the positions I've fallen into because there's no one else to do it. So you
Right.
just step up and you take care of it because of the love of the town and the love of an event.
Right.
But I'm optimistic. I do think that there are plenty of, you know,
People-
citizens out there that are looking for something to do, looking to get involved. I know when I first moved here, that's what I did, you know.
Yeah.
So I think that we'll find people, and I think coming formally from the selectmen with us helping you write it, we might, you know, get people that might not otherwise think that they could do it or participate. And like I said, Mary and I aren't disappearing. We'll help with the transition.
I also think that we've laid the groundwork. All people have to do is just see, I mean, we've got notes, we've got history, we've got all that.
Right.
I think the person or people that come in should have some kind of event planning skills or something, because literally, I work on this, I start in October,
Right.
and I don't finish until after Old Home Days.
Right.
And then I'm already doing 2022 or the next year. So somebody has to realize that it's not something that you're gonna plan in 6 months.
Do
You
you-
know, you're not gonna do it.
Do you think it would be critical for any people that might end up taking over this role, that they be engaged or be a part of this year's, because you're still going to be running this year's, right? So it'd probably be critical for them to be there with you this year to kind of see how you guys do it and see what it
Well,
entails.
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, that,
We're trying to mentor now.
Right, okay.
You know, the rest of the people on the committee, but, you know, I don't, and I don't think Laura has seen anybody that wants to just do what we do,
I think coming out of COVID, everyone is still kind of
react.
shell-shocked and trying to get back to their own life. So I think taking on like an additional or another responsibility, because with the members that are on the committee, they already have enough responsibilities on their plate. It's not like that they're not doing anything.
Right.
But I think someone with a level of enthusiasm, love for the town, if they've been to Old Home Day, they know what it's like, and, you know, I'm probably gonna still volunteer and help out. And like I said, you know, we're gonna continue to guide, because we want the event to continue. So I don't think I could walk away
Yeah, I'm not gonna
knowing
walk
that,
away.
like, it
Right.
wasn't gonna happen, so we'll,
Sorry, can I ask how many people are on the committee now? And
I'm sorry?
how many people are on the committee now?
Right now, there's 11 previous members, and
Okay.
there's 4 additional people that are coming in,
That have not participated in the event, or the 4
that have
people?
not ever participated in the event.
Okay, and there's approximately 4 or 5 leaving, or hoping to transition out?
there's 3.
3, right.
Anything else? Thank you again. Please let us know if we can help.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for approving.
Our pleasure. Earlier this year, the town was awarded a local rapid response grant from the state. We're working with a consultant to implement that grant, and Mr. Duffy is here to update us on the progress of that effort. Okay. Oh, okay.
Oh, you did give me 2.
thank you, Phil.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you.
members of the board, good evening. Congratulations, welcome, Selectman Bruce. Given that there's no one here, I have a projector here and a PowerPoint presentation, but as you have a paper copy of it in front of you, it's okay if we dispense with the projection and we'll just go directly into
I think so.
the material. I'll say that if anyone who's watching this meeting is interested in the materials that are in this packet, by all means, give me a call or reach me by email. I'll be happy to share the information with you. I am here tonight pinch hitting for our consultant, Mark Faverman, who called me late this afternoon, saying that he was unexpectedly ill and wouldn't be able to attend here, so.
Sorry, Phil. Mr. Chair, it might still be worth it, because people, if we have a camera set up to capture this, if people are going to be watching it, they might.
Don't mind,
I feel
Phil.
like it'll just take a couple
Yeah.
minutes to set up.
Okay, yeah.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
And I also, is there a possibility of uploading this to the
Yeah, I was-
Economic Development's website?
Sure, yeah.
And that way, if
And I'll put it on the Facebook page.
Okay, there's that. Oh, let me go over here.
Frankly, serving on this, as a member of this team, it's a lot of reinforcement to efforts we're already doing. So I'm looking forward to bringing us from the planning stage that we've been talking about to the implementation phase. And we had great participation as far as businesses responding to the survey. I think it was almost 50%, which is in this area, it's outstanding. I'm just stalling for Phil here.
was the survey sent out in was it multilingual?
It was available online. The survey was I downloaded from the state's website and it was multilingual, yes. I believe it was Spanish, Portuguese,
Excellent.
Creole, and English.
Excellent.
Okay. So, we gotta plug this in.
All right.
So while we're surmounting these technical hurdles, here we are. I'll briefly describe the program while we wait for this thing to gear up. As shown expressed, the local rapid recovery planning program is intended to assist specifically downtowns as they plan for post-COVID, no, that's the wrong one, post-COVID recovery. This one. It is a program of the Department of Housing and Community Development. There are 125 communities across the state that are participating in it. And slideshow. Forgive me, I don't use this program often enough.
Left
to-
side.
Yeah.
Left
Top
side,
left corner.
from beginning?
Yeah, there you go.
There we go. Thanks, Matt. So yes, so there are 125 communities participating. It is very much a top-down program in that every community in the state that is participating is going through the same process. In fact, every business person that replied to a survey statewide replied to the same survey. At the state level, they're hoping to kind of aggregate apples-to-apples information on different communities with an eye to understanding how well their existing roster of programs are suited to support their goals, which would include downtown revitalization, and to identify where they might be able to fill some holes. So that's basically the program there. The program proceeds in 3 phases. The first phase is data gathering and analysis. The second phase is analysis and preliminary recommendations for further actions, which is where we are now. And then the final phase is the drafting of a final plan. All this will be completed by August 31st of this year. So this is a copy, in fact, of the flyer that we sent out locally with the survey. It also was followed up by a couple emails. As Sean mentioned, we had about 31 responses, which was on the very good side. Statewide, it was about 40% of our downtown businesses. And they were required on a number of questions in terms of what the impacts of COVID have been, and what their thoughts were in terms of what kind of assistance or response would benefit them moving forward. Again, it was a multiple choice survey, so when you see the responses, they are from a preset set of choices. In terms of on the revenue side and impacts, I think there's no surprises here. About 58% of businesses reported a downturn in business over the year to varying degrees of impact, of intensity. Number of businesses employed, a majority of businesses reported decline in revenue. Nearly half reported they laid off people. More than half reported that they reduced hours capacity or were temporarily shuttered or incurred additional expense as a consequence of preparing to open. One of the questions that was asked from the businesses was what measures they felt would benefit them moving forward. And in Clinton, the leading response was participating in shared marketing and advertising. You know, some entity, whether it be the town or some quasi-public entity like Discover Clinton, could spearhead a shared marketing or advertising response. The following 2 responses that were most highly ranked had to do with financing assistance, either for storefront and facade improvements or for the purchase of property in the district. And then trailing behind, equally coupled, are kind of online support, either establishing an online presence, a social media presence, or moving to online selling of product. So just to dial back, if you compare this to the efforts we have made in town to date, we have done financing for facades and improvements. I think a little later, I know we've run 2 programs to do that, one CDBG funded and one funded from the town's community development fund. We have done baby steps towards marketing through the platform that was developed in conjunction with our downtown infrastructure program. And we have not yet kind of ventured into kind of soft business supports for online presence. This to me indicates this might be a place for, as we develop this plan, a place for us to look for further guidance and more specific guidance in developing appropriate assistance avenues for local businesses. In terms of what happens in the public realm, these are interesting responses. These again are a preset set of questions and responses on a range of not important to very important. One question asked, would support for public transportation or bike riding be an important support for local business? And the general response in that was no, in fact, which is not surprising considering we don't have any public transportation in town presently. When asked if more cultural events or activities would bring people into the district, more than half said yes, that it was important, very important, 57%. They were asked if more opportunities for outdoor dining and selling were important. More than two-thirds responded yes, 67%. And when asked if marketing strategies for the commercial district would be important, 68% answered yes. So that gives us an indication that, at least in terms of some of the stuff we're doing with the shared spaces grant and the downtown improvements, we're on the right track already, but that we should be looking more, and the preliminary steps we've taken towards, under Ed's guidance, supporting the continuation of Matchstick Market or the pop-up pub idea that's been discussed. We're also moving in the right direction there. But again, that kind of social media and marketing is kind of a gap in our performance to date, at least as far as it's been identified by the most important people in this whole equation, the business people. Another data set was a site walk that was conducted with our advisory committee. The names are listed there. It's a representative list of downtown stakeholders and people within town government. It includes Lieutenant Coyne from the police department, Chris from the DPW, Ed and Sean from the board, and then kind of a sampling of people from around downtown and in different lines of business. We walked the downtown for about 2 hours, Ed? It was a good walk. I thought it was a very interesting time. A lot of very useful conversations we had. But some of the takeaways from that, when we walk through, what we're doing is we're kind of making a visual observation of what we see, and then kind of noting it, having a conversation about it. One thing that actually didn't make this list, which was noted right at the beginning, was kind of the adjacency of Central Park to the downtown, and how if you were a visitor to downtown and unfamiliar with the area, you wouldn't know that one of the most beautiful parks in Massachusetts was only a block away. So kind of trying to find a way to kind of make that apparent to visitors was one thing that was pointed out. Another thing that was pointed out, and something that we've talked about in prior committees, is kind of the understanding how the pedestrian passages from High Street to the remote areas of parking, whether it be the Walnut Street lot or the Church Street lots on School Street, strengthening those and making them more apparent and obvious. I think because they serve a functional use, but also because they're actually kind of cool. The condition of private buildings was noted in the downtown, and I think the general consensus was that some of the buildings were looking a little tired, and if there's things we could do to support property owners in basically transforming those buildings, that it would be a desirable goal. I will say anecdotally, we have the sign facade program that we've had up and running. I'd submit that the signs that have been added downtown, I think, add materially to the attractiveness of downtown. We've seen, starting with the Inamorati's 2 years ago, fixing up their building, then, which was the first building, I've lived in town 22 years, that's the first building I've seen fixed up in 22 years. Then Aubuchon has done their building. Then Ryan Rodriguez, who owns the building where the spillway used to be, did his building. Now Bill O'Neill is doing his building. And I was talking to a property owner adjacent to that, and he said, I was looking at the building next door to me, now I really need to paint my building. So, hopefully this is the kind of...
Phil, is that sign and facade program, is that still running?
All funds have been committed to date, both on the CDBG side and on the community development side. We'll discuss the resiliency loan program a little later, and how we didn't spend all the money that was authorized. I may be coming to you at a future meeting, maybe your next meeting, requesting that we replenish the funds in the sign and facade program. It's been very popular both in the downtown and outside the downtown, and I think it's really cheap goodwill and beautification. So if it meets with your favor, we'll replenish the fund. And the condition on that same subject, though, is really noted that in that block that the Strand Marquee is really kind of the visual focus of that whole block. We were looking at it, before construction resumed, so we were looking at a flat plain with no sidewalks, no trees, no lights or anything. But even so, that is a very prominent element in the block. I can tell you that back I believe in the 1980s, Mike, the early 90s, the town did provide a loan to Jim Barrett to fix it up back then from the same community development fund. And if that's something that we want to see if the building owner or business owner are interested in doing, if it's a priority established by the Board of Selectmen, we can certainly do that. The Main Street corridor, basically the block from the fire station down to the bridge, is part of downtown. It's actually the most heavily trafficked part of downtown, but it was felt that it really didn't feel like part of downtown, or really kind of very good. It was noted by one of the walkers that standing in front of the gas station, the auto parts store, with the the housing behind us. He said when people drive through Clinton, this is what they think of, which is a shame because we're so much more beautiful than that. But that's the street that carries the highest volumes of traffic. So we've actually, as you know, we've kind of colonized segments of the downtown. We're doing the downtown now. We did Nelson Street a little while ago. We did the parking lot. We did Walnut Street. It'll be a big bite, but if we can find the right project to kind of improve Main Street in the same way and make its connection to downtown, the whole downtown area, stronger, I think that is a long-range project that we should have on our wish list. One thing that was noted in places like along the church parking lots and School Street, where the paving rolls right into the sidewalk, or goes right into the street without any curbing, there was no kind of real definition of zones. It was kind of just, it looked very little cared for. Similarly, it was noted along the parking lot area on the lot between Duvarney's and the dentist on High Street. If there was some kind of screening or planting or those kinds of things, just to crispen up the edges, that was something that was noted by one of the members of the committee. And then another thing that was discussed was kind of the business mix. We noted anecdotally as we walked down that we're seeing kind of a transition to experiential businesses that provide you piano lessons or massage or a meal or those kinds of things. Retail is becoming harder and harder to get downtown, and trying to understand what that means for downtown and what our kind of supports are for downtown, I think is something important that we should notice. There are other kinds of analyses that are ongoing currently in this phase. Those include analysis of demographics. It includes analysis of vacancies and tenancies, traffic counts, and kind of market information. All that information is provided to the consultant, but to date it has not yet been analyzed and rolled into this presentation, which is only preliminary. But in connection with that, one thing that has been discussed was the viability or possibility or attractiveness of finding someone as kind of a district manager or downtown coordinator, a kind of a point person, who could be the point person for marketing, or could be the point person for events, or could be the point person for any of a number of things. Kind of investing in kind of soft skills, for lack of a better term, in the way that we've invested in hard surfaces over the last 5 years. Currently, there are no supports at the state level for this kinds of programming. It did exist in the late 90s and then went away. Who knows, but as a result of this statewide effort, if there may be a program that pops up like that. But even so, it's something we may want to consider finding an alternative funding source for. I'm not going to go over this slide. It just kind of reiterates some of the information from the survey in terms of the impacts of businesses on businesses. The next step is this is kind of preliminary ideation, the presentation of preliminary ideas that are suggested by the data analysis to date for your consideration, not for action today, but as kind of just to get the wheels rolling and to see if there's any other ideas that come up to you. The ideas that came out from the survey include, again, shared marketing and advertising, training on the use of social media, and storefront and facade improvement programs. These are all things for us to begin to think of and identify whether we want to look at these intently in this plan. In a preliminary basis, I think so. And some of these are layups for us because we've already done some of this stuff. Some of it it would be good if we can rely on our consultant to provide us a level of thinking and consideration that goes beyond what we have done today. In terms of capacity building, to provide a way or a venue for businesses to come together and pool resources and coordinate efforts. As you know, Discover Clinton has firmly reestablished, going on about 16 months ago. It's still getting its sea legs underneath it, but ideally this is the kind of entity that could fill that role. Back in 2012, we did what was it called? Bluestone Center thing, a ready analysis, which kind of looked at the community's preparedness to accept and invite economic development. And in that study, one of the things that was identified was the demise of I think it was 2014, was the demise of the Wachusett Chamber and the lack of any kind of entity like that, which was a gathering place for business people, both to enjoy each other's fellowship, but also to understand what their common interests are and provide a venue for the articulation of those interests. Hopefully Discover Clinton can become that, but that is one thing in terms of capacity building that is being looked at. And then another thing that came out of the study, it wasn't really touched on in this presentation, but there was concern about parking. And so additional parking and or parking agreements, improved parking management of existing spaces. Again, this is something we have queued up. We're waiting for the end of our project to put all the signs in place. After that, it comes down, according to the plan that we devised, to enforcement. And if enforcement takes place and we find that the plan is deficient, we'll go back to our parking management plan and go to the plan B. Incidentally, Matt, I was actually looking at the parking management plan. You're right, there are some discrepancies in that plan in terms of how they counted blocks. I don't think they're consequential, but they're typos that you picked up on. So just thank you for that. And then within the public realm, recommendation that we, I guess, support district identity and also for parking, those kinds of things. Wayfinding, and again, we are already in the process of implementing that. More outdoor seating areas and shared public spaces, and again, we're in the process of implementing that. Amenity improvements for public transit users and bike riders. Some of these are kind of generic, I think, off-the-shelf recommendations that are being made in many towns. We are adding a number of bike racks to the downtown project. We currently have no public transportation except for this 3 times a day shuttle from Leominster to Worcester, which is a pretty recent program over the last couple months. Unless we were to move kind of bike accommodation to Water Street and Main Street in the downtown, I think bike racks are as far as we want to go in terms of encouraging biking on our street with angled parking. It's not an ideal, they're not ideally compatible. And then to add additional cultural events and activities to attract patrons, such as a Taste of Clinton, to showcase local restaurants and businesses. And again, we had very preliminary discussions about that at the beginning of COVID, the idea of shutting down the road and maybe having some festivals. We're again working towards reestablishing the Matchstick Market, and we're working. We had a preliminary discussion with the owner of the vacant lot next to Aubuchon's and the brewers on Stone Street about having kind of a pop-up pub a couple of nights this summer. That looks like a very promising idea, and we need to develop that. But developing the capacity that can do that on a continuing basis to achieve the effect we want, I think, is something we need to do. You know, we're going to work on this and we'll take a stab at it, but I'll be the first person to tell you I'm not an event planner. You know.
And Phil, just to add on that too, I think being on the town hall usage subcommittee, I'd love to experiment with maybe, 2 or 3 events in the spring or the fall where we're able to do something here at the town hall and then try to like funnel all the people at the end, before or after the event, to the downtown area, just to add on to that, the cultural events and activities. I think there's a lot of potential for something like that.
I agree. We have a wonderful auditorium here,
Yeah.
and nobody knows about it.
Yep.
We used
I
to have a
agree.
Nutcracker here, and we had a couple other events, and those have kind of gone away over the years. But yeah, I 100% agree. We used to have Clinton Community Theater that would bring people in from the region.
Yep.
So yeah, I would love to. I think that's a great idea, because now it's it'll be such a delightful walk downtown when the sidewalks and lights are in. So.
Yep.
So that's just about the end of it. The next slide invites your feedback and ideas. And you can read those slides there. They kind of just follow up questions to the things that have been presented. This is the first presentation. There'll be another one probably at your meeting at the end of July. But this is just kind of get the ball rolling and to get some of this information out there and to see if you or viewing members of the public have any feedback.
Any feedback? You guys want to hold off or digest this?
Other than I think this program is great. I think that walkthrough was great. Everyone very positive. Everyone was identifying ideas. I do agree with the group that if we can talk with the owners of the Strand and see if there's something that we can do to help them out, and if it means if there's something that this board can authorize at a future meeting that we think could help that out, because I do think that sign, that movie theater sign, that marquee is really, and I think some of the people that were on the tour with us that aren't even from Clinton, they commented that's like, it is really like the heart and soul of that part of downtown. So if there's anything we can do, we've been very active in improving the storefronts on a lot of businesses. So, if there's something that we can do, and we can talk to Phil about that down the road. But I just think this is I'm really excited about this program. I'm glad I'm a part of it, and I'm just really looking forward to it. Yeah, it's great. And thanks to Phil. This is a lot of hard work on his part too.
Thank you. I would say that the goal of this project is to produce projects. It's not to produce ideas. They want, the end result will be, the final report will include a series of recommendations for implementable projects. The program also involves including, in addition to our primary consultants, subject matter experts from a wide range of fields. Again, moving forward with your feedback, I'd like to give our consultant the input that we're really looking towards the marketing and social media and event planning realm of recommendations. Because I think, honestly, we spent a lot of time on the bricks and mortar stuff over the years. I think we got a good handle on that, but the deficiency in our knowledge and expertise is in these other things, and I think we really should be pushing for that. We don't want a report that says, good job, Clinton, you've been doing great. We want a report that says, this is what you need to do next.
Yeah, and that's what I'm actually encouraged about, is that none of this is really a surprise. It's just a reinforcement of the things we've been talking about informally and formally with you and other people in town, to hear that the businesses are seeing it the same way we are, and to know that we are now, not just this program, but there's a lot of resources that are coming in through the state and federal level. It's unfortunate what we had to go through to get here, but in some way it's a nice coincidence, because we're ready for our close-up, and we need to stop talking and start doing. So I'm very excited that we're narrowing our focus, and we're going to come up with some of those projects and hopefully see them through in the next few months.
And to that note, just something else that Phil mentioned is, I know Phil has his plate full by really kind of setting the stage to try to attract business. I do agree with Phil that we should consider some type of a resource. Now we're going to have this revitalization program wrapping up. Have someone in a role that is more of a advocate and marketing, someone that really is going to go out there and promote, because Phil's done a great job, and he'll continue to do a great job to to set the stage for businesses to come here. But I think it would be nice to give him some additional resources to really help now sell what we've invested in.
All right, well, digest this, and Phil's door is open as always, and either he or Ed and I will keep you posted on the progress of this committee. You are still on the clock with hazard mitigation plan contract award.
Sure. In 2019, the town was awarded a grant from FEMA to update our hazard mitigation plan. Hazard mitigation plan is a comprehensive document that looks at all your town's liabilities to hazardous events, natural and unnatural, and your capacity to address those. It involves the fire, the police, the SEMA, the DPW, a wide range of inputs. An updated hazard mitigation plan is required to apply for any non-state of emergency funding from FEMA, or non-emergency funding from FEMA. So this includes things like the Assistance to Firefighters Grant program, the SAFER program, a wide range of things. We received that grant in 2019. It wasn't until February of 2021 that we got the notice to proceed and sign the contracts, put an RFP, and long story short, I'm recommending that we hire Horsley Witten engineers, I believe of Providence, Rhode Island. We received 5 responses, 4 were excellent. It was a tough choice, but these people came, in the end, this firm went out on recommendations, barely. But $22,500 will come from FEMA, $7,500 will come from the town. That's an amount that you guys approved back in 2019 when we made the application.
What's the pleasure of the board?
Should I make a motion? Whatever the amounts were, I don't have it in front of me.
$30,000.
$30,000.
For a 5-year update
That we upgraded.
for the Horsley Witten Group,
Yep.
Providence, I guess. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Thank you. And we're talking about the local resiliency loan program.
Yes, you may remember back in March, only a couple days after the state of emergency was declared, This board authorized my office to create a resiliency loan program. The idea was to provide short-term funding for local businesses to address immediate impacts of COVID, and we designed the program with the idea that the federal cavalry would be riding in sometime around the end of May, bringing in the big bucks, and that's exactly what happened. Your board authorized $150,000 for that program. I'm happy to say that we assisted 22 businesses, expending a total amount of $92,750. I think the program worked exactly as we intended. But with the closing of the state of emergency and the fact that we have not received an application since, I think, this last October, July, since we haven't received an application in a long time, I'm requesting that the board close the program.
So there, it was 150 was requested, 92 was utilized.
Yep.
And so what happens with if we close the program, what happens to the remainder of that account?
It remains in the fund. You
Okay.
know, I didn't move it from one account to another. I just drew down from that account as loans were issued. So the funds would remain exactly where they were.
Okay.
But I think the purpose for which we created it is over. If something else comes up, it may be a different set of circumstances, and the board has already expressed a willingness to support businesses as we can. If it needs to come back, we can, but I think we should, it's my recommendation that we close it now.
Mr. Deputy, these loans that were given out, though, have they been paid back?
No, John, our terms require that the repayment begin 30 days after the close of the state of emergency, or October 1st of 2021, whichever comes sooner. So we will start the first payment. The first payments will be made on August 1st.
Okay.
We've talked with John Kittredge. We are actually going to do these through the online portal. So the people will be able to visit their account online, make a payment, and draw it down. So, and if you recall, the businesses are allowed to choose their own terms, anything from 1 year to 4 year, at 3% simple interest.
Because you're requesting that, you just want to close this account out, correct?
I just want to
That's
close
right.
the program. Yeah, the loans are still due. The loans are still repayable. I'm requesting that we close the program.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we have the account closed, that Mr. Deputy close out the account.
I'll second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion?
So just one question, Mr. Chair. So the leftover accounts and the funds could be used for some future endeavor for economic development?
Yep.
Okay, that's it.
Like, for instance, a continuation of the sign and facade program, for instance.
Yeah, okay,
Anything else?
that's it.
Will any businesses that utilize the loan program, will that be adequate time for them to begin making payments on the money that's been borrowed?
We believe so, Matt, and that's why we gave them the option of choosing, but quite frankly, we made it clear that we weren't going to give, we weren't lending you money today to drive you out of business later. If a business is having difficulty and it's a viable business, we will certainly work with them to make sure that it works for them. You know, it's a loan, it's not a grant. We're not going in looking to write it off, but we'll work with any business that is, if this is a hardship for any business.
Anything else? Hearing nothing else, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? 5-0.
A second motion related to that program, now closed. The loans were issued, we issued our first loans before, I think on March 29th, 2 weeks after your board authorized the creation of this program. At that time, for reference, we used an interest rate comparable to common SBA instruments as well as our CDBG loans for housing rehab at 3%. That ended up being a pretty high rate compared to the instruments that came out later. The EIDL is a 30-year term at either 2.75 or 3.75. The PPP is at 1% over 30 years. So for that reason, and for the reason that collection of interest requires that we do tax reporting to each of these businesses each year, I'm requesting that the board unilaterally amend the loan agreements to change the interest rate to 0%. In short, it is more in keeping with the terms of other instruments that were out there for COVID assistance. And quite frankly, I don't have to burn $50 worth of my time to tell somebody they paid $14 in interest. So that's short of it.
You want to waive the interest rate, correct?
Yes.
I'll make
All
a
right, Mr.
motion.
Chairman, I'll make a motion.
I'm going to give it to Matt. You get the second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all is in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Superintendent of Public Works is recommending the following streets for resurfacing. Do you want to do this, Chris? You want me to?
I guess I can do it.
All right.
So, I was going to make a recommendation for some road paving projects for this year. The money we're going to be spending is the money that was appropriated just at the past town meeting. It was $2 million appropriated for roadway improvements. What I'd like to do is get these projects underway, probably late summer, early fall, once some of these other projects get cleared up. It's really almost impossible right now even to get a police detail, so we really don't want to start them just yet, but by late summer, early fall, I'd like to start. And the streets I'm recommending, which all have had recently gas improvement work and water improvement work, would be Front Street, Winter Street, Hill Street, Cedar Street, Forest Street, Harris Street, and Clark Street. It's about just shy of 2 miles of roadway, and every one of these roads is definitely in need of repairs. So, again, I'm always open to suggestions, and it's very easy for me to switch streets, take one out, put one in. It's very simple. They're all unit price projects, and I can mix in and out very easily. So, don't be shy about coming up with some suggestions for this year or even for next year, and then we can start taking a look at stuff.
Chris, I know one question that's come up has been Sterling Street, and I know that was mentioned before about
Sure.
the...
Yeah, Sterling is is our latest TIP project, so it's a transportation improvement project. So it's federal money and state money that pays for the entire job except for the design work. Right now, we're in design, the design phase of that. The 25% plans, which they're called 25% plans, but they're probably more like 80% plans. It's really a lot of the details taken care of in these plans. They should be submitted to the state within the next month. And the project isn't slotted yet. It's approved by the federal government and the state government, but it's not slotted yet. So what happens is once you get to 25%, that's when the funding can get finalized on when that's going to happen. So it's probably a couple years out before we can start that project. These projects take a while, but when they get built, it's like the Lower High Street project and the Water Street project. They're substantial projects, and that is, I certainly understand it's in need, which is why we have it on this program. It's really a big main corridor in town, which is why we went the TIP route for it in the first place. It needs curbing, it needs sidewalks. It really doesn't have any of that stuff. You got railroad crossings, so it's complicated projects. I think it's about a $2.5 million project at this point, but we're pushing that forward as fast as we can.
One more question. Sure. What about Woodlawn? I know right outside the DPW, there's that stretch from the DPW barn to the cemetery entrance.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's another one that absolutely could be put on the list, you know, and that's not a long stretch, and I wouldn't, hesitate to possibly add that in. It's short enough where we might be able to fit it in. I'm leery of putting too many roads in.
Gotcha.
Like, I think this project that I'm proposing is probably a 1.5 to 1.7. We have $2 million. If I'm right with, my unit prices, which they change, especially with the inflation and the way things are right now, it's difficult to get real accurate until you get the prices in. I usually leave a caveat in these bids that say the town reserves the right to add streets to this contract, and we could do that if the bids come in reasonable. But there's a lot of roads, and these ones I think are the worst. That one we did a big stretch of Woodlawn Street, but we had to stop somewhere.
That's
we
right.
stopped at Fitch Road, but the rest of it needs to be done for sure. So actually, it would make the parade route really nice if we get that done. Now that Greeley's underway too, so that's going to be done. So.
For fear of turning this into everyone just throwing streets out at Chris, but Just curious if Greeley Street is on the,
Greeley's underway, the contract's been awarded.
That's already done. Okay, all right.
We're doing from the bridge to the town line, there's gonna be curbing, sidewalks, gonna be beautiful. They're actually they ripped out all the sidewalks right now, and tomorrow, they're actually pulverizing the road. Probably have the base course of pavement, on the road. We're not pulverizing the entire thing, we're going up to about Flag Street, the rest of the way we're just milling and overlaying. But we're doing berms and sidewalks and stuff, but that stretch from the bridge to Flag should have a base coat of pavement on it by, I would guess, Tuesday of next week, and it'll be smooth.
Gotta review my minutes better.
So as far as a master plan for road resurfacing, I know that there's a general feeling that the road conditions are rough in town, but I'm curious as far as an overall view, what condition the majority of the roads in town are in, right? There seems to be focus on the roads that need to be done, but I'm curious on what has been, over the last, say, 5 to 10 years, how many roads have been done and percentage-wise on.
I mean, I don't have that information right at the top of my hands. I mean, we've done a lot of streets. We've never had money to do a lot of streets until now. So really what we used to do is you might do 1 street or 2 street depending on the length. But as you can see, if you count Greeley Street in and High Street in, I mean, you're talking about 3-4 miles of road. And 3 or 4 miles of road when you only have about 48 to 50 miles of road is a lot. So, over the course of the next 5 years, if we can do 2 or 3 miles of road a year, you're talking 15 miles of road. So we really are going to be hitting pretty much all of the really rough roads. They're going to be in better shape. What we're going to have to do is start going back to roads that are in that are in reasonable shape, that are like what we did Berlin Street. Berlin Street was, it rode very rough, but it was really just the top course of pavement that was in bad shape on Berlin Street. But the cost of what we did on Berlin Street, if you exclude curbing and sidewalks, very expensive, but as a pavement surface, to mill and overlay is so much cheaper than to pulverize and redo the road. So you get subdivisions like Fox Run that is in decent shape, but it's showing signs of wear. We're gonna have to start backing up and spending some of this money on milling and overlay to preserve the road so we can fix a road for, 20% of the money of a complete reconstruction of the project. And that's what the plan is moving forward, is to start getting some of these roads that are just showing signs where they're going to start going south, catching them before that and getting them fixed, and they'll go another 20 years without being touched. So.
Excellent.
And just to remind people at home that a lot of towns and cities rely solely on state money for this. We get, about $340,000 a year on that. So we're talking about 5 to 7 times that this year. And it's something we've been fortunate, thanks to the landfill, to be able to do that and get caught up in a lot of ways. So I know it looks bad, but we're making a lot of progress with no impact to the taxpayer that a lot of cities and towns can't do. So I'm glad we have a plan in place to use this money while we can to get ahead and then go back and take care of what we have. Any other questions or discussion about this? I'll accept the motion.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we accept the roads that Mr. Our DPW chief suggested.
I'll second.
Motion made and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
There's no administrative business tonight. We'll go on to old and new business. The town administrator is recommending the awarding of a contract to Roselli Clark and Associates to perform our annual financial audits. Mr. Ward?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to follow up, we had the same auditor, Bill Frayer, for a number of years. A couple of years ago, he was looking to retire and downsize. We weren't able to find a good partner at that time. Then with the pandemic last year, he stayed on with us 2 years ago. Then with the pandemic, he got us through that as well. But he really said, as of this end of this fiscal 20 audit, that once that's just about complete now, that he's not going to do the 21. So we did talk with Roselli and Clark. They're very experienced in municipal business. They have about 50 employees, about 120 government entities. And we kind of have a little of everything. We have the federal audit, we have schools, school activities, we got our own retirement system, and not through the county. plus our regular financial audit. So we have a bit of every piece that they do where other towns don't have all of that. So this company is definitely experienced, and they committed to holding our current, our fear was going to a bigger firm, we're going to see the price go up considerably. So this firm is willing to hold the current price that we have, and with a 3-year contract, just to go up $1,000 each year for the next 2 years. So it would start at $36,000, $37,000, and $38,000. So I felt that was very reasonable. I did meet with Tony Roselli, one of the principals. He was very knowledgeable, very seemed kind of good to talk with and deal with, and kind of gave him our philosophy of how we would like to see the auditors come in and approach in an educational way, to bring us into compliance and tell us where we need to do better, but do it in a way where we're instructing, working with departments, and he said that's what he does with all of his clients. So, so we were impressed with them. We'd like to give them a shot, and I'd like to recommend that to the board.
Any questions? What's the pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I recommend that we accept Mr. Ward's recommendation to accept this accounting firm.
Second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Great, thank you.
We have entered into the eligibility period for the Clinton Middle School feasibility project starting on June 1st. The Massachusetts School Building Authority requires that the community agree to their guidelines by July 1st. I think this doesn't require action on our part. Was this more informational?
No, Mr. Chairman, the board doesn't necessarily need to vote it per se. It's something that that has to be sent in. What this is it's a very lengthy document, as the board can see in their packet, but it just outlines all the rules of the MSBA process. So what they're doing is they're asking the town to agree to those rules. So the superintendent brought it to the last school committee meeting on Monday and asked that, if they had any concerns, and he had asked if the selectmen would be made aware of it to see if the board has any concerns that the town wouldn't be able to adhere to these guidelines. So just by July 1st, he just needs to submit that back to the state with signatures saying that we're good to follow your rules. So it's pretty much a take it or leave it prospect, but the superintendent did want the selectmen to be aware of it and ask if there was any concerns going forward in this process. It's going to be a big undertaking, a lengthy process, so he just wants to make sure that throughout the process everyone's on board and everyone's kept in as part of the communication.
And to remind people, if we choose the leave it option, I think we're leaving 74+% of the project reimbursement on the table. So that's a big leave.
It's not going to hurt to make a motion to agree with it, right?
Certainly not. No.
Yeah, so, I mean, just in case, I mean, I'll make a motion that we agree to the guidelines for the program set forth by the MSBA for the middle school.
Massachusetts school. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say for the middle school renovations project.
I'll second that motion.
Motion made and seconded. Any questions or discussions?
I do have a question for Mr. Gibbons. So are we able to find if there's any perceived conflict of interest with my involvement with the construction or renovation or potential for the middle school? I know we had talked about it briefly at the town meeting, but...
I don't see what this document, we can definitely move it. This document here is, like Mike said, it's not a motion, it's a certification, I don't see the conflict.
Okay.
If you want to abstain, I think we got the vote, so. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. We have an agreement between the Board of Selectmen and the Superintendent of Public Works established for management of the landfill capping project that requires the board each year set the salary of the Superintendent of Public Works to include a stipend of $25,000 for the regular maintenance of the landfill, and there's another provision that provides a bonus of $25,000 each time in excess of $1.5 million of surplus is transferred from the Landfill Enterprise Fund to the General Fund. As a reminder, at our recent annual town meeting on the 7th of June, $3.2 million was transferred to the Capital Projects and Infrastructure Improvement Fund. This is, in addition, we did just approve an agreement, but this is for
Right.
this year.
Yeah, the amended agreement is for the subsequent
Fine.
year, so this is just going off the prior agreement, which was from, I think, 2012 and 2013. So it's just every year, not that, to have that board set the tone forever, that every year, the sitting Board of Selectmen get to review this every year and set the parameters for going forward. So this would be for 2021, and then the board had just approved a new agreement for 21, for 22 and 23.
Great.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend we accept it. We already signed it. We already agreed on this before.
Yep.
Yes.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded to
Honor the...
go honor our agreement
Honor the agreement.
for this fiscal year. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all is in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Any other old and new business? Hearing none. Any committee reports? Hearing none. We have some, I know traditionally we slide into our summer schedule. We have some, we have a police chief to interview and appoint. We have some year-end transfers that will probably have to be made by the 15th of July. And I know there are a couple other pressing matters that we've been approached about. I don't think it'd be a marathon meeting, but just some things that need to be taken care of. So I don't know if we want to go to, you know, we could do if we want to go once a month for July and August, we could do the 7th or the 14th and the 4th and the 11th. I have a commitment on August 18th. And again, I think we can just set July now, but I wanted to make sure that before we started getting into our summer plans that we circled something to get that stuff done. Does anybody have a preference between the 7th and the 14th? Would it be, do you think there's a preference for either as far as getting the stuff done with the accountant, or?
No, I think as long as the year-end transfers are done, as the chair said, by July 15th. So I know historically the board would meet instead of the first and third Wednesday in July and August, they would do the third Wednesday and just skip the first for those 2 months. But we need these done by July 15th.
Right.
So if you kind of want
So you want to look at
flip-flop it, you know,
go the
so-
second Wednesdays then? So like that'd be the 14th and the 11th tentatively?
So July 14th and
August 11th?
August 11th? Well, if there's stuff that has to be done for the 15th, is that one day enough time to, would it make more sense to do the 7th? To-
Well, he's,
One day is plenty, I guess.
well, for the accountant, I think she just needs it
Yeah, I
approved.
think the vote needs to be taken by then, so I think in terms
That would
of
actually
the
give
work,
her-
would still be, closing out the year takes most of the summer, but in order to have that legal, it has to be voted by the 15th, so either date would work.
Yeah, I'm fine with either. I'm just thinking if it has to be done by the 15th and our options are the 7th or the 14th, I'd just choose the 7th if anything happened where we had to like meet again to resolve something, but the chances of
anyone
that
have
are
a-
probably.
Is anyone going away
Because-
for that week?
Yeah, does that conflict with anyone's plans?
Is the 7th, yeah, I'm willing to do the 7th if that
Yeah,
works.
because the finance committee also has to review it as well, too. So
Well, let's target the 7th then. All right, and then we'll figure out what we want to do for August at that point.
So, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
as far as the interviews for the police chief is
They'll be on the 7th.
the 7th.
That's our hope, right? We have to give them warning? The police chief candidates?
Right,
We have a
yeah,
list from
there's-
civil service.
Yeah, there are 3 candidates. The list just came in yesterday. They then now have a week to sign whether they want to be considered. They sat for the assessment center, but now there's a form that they want to be considered for the appointment now that they got on the list. So it's just kind of another civil service hoop, another step
Keeps
in
on
the
giving.
process. So as of next week, we'll have given them that opportunity to sign that form, and then at that point, it's up to the board to meet with them at any point. So if there is a date that we could give them a time to prep to be, to be available for it, I would like to let them know that as well, too. So whether you do that on the 7th, or if you wanted an off date to do that, that could be done at any time.
The 7th is fine for me if it's enough time for them.
Yep.
I know we've held Chief Lavager up a bit, and I don't want to eat in his summer vacation too much either, so.
Yep, no, that'd be great.
Great, okay. Hearing no other business, we'll be exiting open session and to go into executive session under Article 6 of the Open Meeting Law to discuss landfill property access negotiations. We will not be returning to open session otherwise for anything other than to adjourn. I will conduct a roll call vote. Ms. Pruce? Aye, yep. We have to do a roll call vote to go in.
Okay.
Sorry, I wanted you to go
You start
first.
with me?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Start
right?
with
Couldn't
you,
start with
kid.
me so she could see how it worked before I got to her.
Just put me on the spot,
well,
that's
all
awesome.
right, you did fine.
Is that what the clerk
John,
does? Is that what the clerk does?
Matt,
Aye.
and Ed.
Aye.
The chair is aye. Thank you, and good night. We'll see you on July 7th.